Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Are you okay to talk? Is this a good time?
Yeah, no, this is great. My husband might come home at some point, but he knows to, like, shut up.
Funny, I do too. So, we have so much to talk about.
I know.
Girlfriend, you have some splaining to do.
Oh, no.
Am I talking to the dark side, Karielle, or am I talking to the normal Karielle that I know and have learned to love?
Oh, well, keep talking. We'll find out.
Okay. We, because our last time we talked was a few years back.
Yeah.
So much has happened in your life since I've seen you. I mean, I didn't know you had a baby. I'm not even sure I knew you were married. I mean, you know, minor things like that. Why don't you just kind of give a quick overview of how you've kind of gotten where you are, you know, where you picked up your love for theater, if you have a love for theater, which I know you do, but, and then we'll get into, I have some major questions for you.
Yeah. So, where I'm at now, let's see, since last we spoke, I think the last time you and I sat down and did this podcast, I was still looking into like living in Ireland for a while, and was sort of, I would say, at the peak of my acting career in New Hampshire, where I was doing like 3 shows at a time. Like if I wasn't in show, I was in tech for another show, and I was just always in rehearsal, and was like single and loving it, and just kind of like ran around doing a ton of theater. Yeah. Was still a worship leader. I'm still a worship leader. And then the pandemic blew the world up, of course. Yeah. And I had like 4 shows get canceled, and it was really devastating. But right before the pandemic, I had started dating my husband, my now husband. And we...
As opposed to, wait, your now husband as opposed to...
you know, the later one. No, he...
Just wanted to clarify that.
He and I were just really, really certain about each other really quickly. He has a son from a previous marriage, so I was to become a stepmom. So it was like, we didn't really have... Without going into too much detail, we didn't really have like we went to the movies for 6 months and we just like wined and dined each other for a while. Like, no, it was like cards on the table really quickly. Like, there's a kid in the middle of this, so let's figure out if this is a real thing or not. And when it turned out it was, we got married, and then I moved down to the seacoast of New Hampshire, which I thought would mean like, oh, once the pandemic stopped, it would just mean like even more theater, because there's so much theater down here too. And then the pandemic just kept dragging on and on forever. And by the time theater was back in a full spring, like everything was back to normal mostly, we had bought our house and I was pregnant. So I don't remember how many, but I did a couple of shows pregnant up until I was about 7 months. So I was like pretty big on stage at the end when I did Holy and Unruly. And, yeah. Now he's here, and he's 8 months old, and he consumes so much of my life.
Yeah, good.
That it's wonderful. I love him. I honestly didn't know that I would ever be a mom, never mind a stepmom. I used to see moms and feel bad for them. To be like, man, that must suck. Like your whole life just like circled around this thing. Like, man, you never get to do what you want. And actually you just want different things.
And now people are looking at you saying, oh, that must suck.
Oh my gosh, I'm the first of my friends, and they'll be like, oh, we should go have a girls' weekend. And I'm like, let me tell you the extent of things I would need to plan to do that. And it's not forever. Like the nursing season doesn't last forever, of course, and it'll be fine. But it's kind of where I'm at now. I started a photography business as well during the pandemic.
Good for you.
So thank you. It's more successful than I thought it would be in the first few years. And It's good. It's a really good gig. I think
Are
every
you doing
actor.
like weddings and stuff, or are you just is this like personal photography?
I do weddings at kind of a minimal because I didn't want to consume every single weekend with it. Because if you only do weddings, that's every weekend for the rest of your life if you're trying to make a career out of it. So I do like a lot of family portraits. I have special deals that I offer like actors and performers for headshots because we have something in common. Um,
You have a
but it's
studio?
very no, I don't have a studio, so I'm purely I think I would be considered more of like a portrait street photographer
Yeah.
than anything. But like I do some real estate photography too, just because the money is really good and it's very easy. It's funny because when people talk about actors, they're like, "Oh, you must be like a waiter or a bartender." Like that's the joke.
Yeah.
And the more I think, I'm like, that's actually a terrible gig for an actor because that's weekends. And
Yes.
so is theater, and you can't do that. Photography is like whenever, and it's a really expensive product, and people know that going into it. So when you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, your shoot is $1,400, and people are like, oh, you're only here for an hour, like, but I'm spending 10
Yeah.
hours in the background.
Right.
You can kind of it's very profitable and very flexible, and it's been perfect for motherhood and theater. So loving that. And
Digital photography? Are you an old fashioned
no, man, I wish.
darkroom? Okay. All
I
right.
kind of wish I had a camera like that just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, digital photography. I love my Canon. It's very good.
Yeah. So you have like Final Cut Pro and all that. What do you use to
I
edit
use
stuff?
I use Lightroom Classic
Oh,
actually. The newer, I can't remember the name of the newer Lightroom because I never use it, but it's not as great. It's almost it's almost like if you want to do more Photoshop kind of work, like really, really, really artistic work, which I love doing that stuff too. I find that more people want just like pretty golden hour portraits,
hmm.
and there's just a greater market for it. And then all the artistic stuff I can kind of do on the side. Like I have a series that is sort of on hold right now, but it's called the Raw series, and they're just very, very heavy texture black and white photos
Hmm.
of like not pretty things. Like I have
Like me. You take one of me.
no, you're beautiful. I would never do that. That's why I've never hired you. As a no, but like my mom, I asked her if I could use her because I really wanted someone with a lot of texture in their skin. And she has like the freckles and she's smiled her whole life. So she's got like the crow's feet and everything. And I told her, I was like, they're not pretty photos. Like I'm not going to smooth you out. It's meant to be very high texture. And she like hated them, of course. But I was like, I think they look perfect. They look raw and beautiful. And it's got like the story of your life all over your face. I love
Mhm.
it. And then I did a friend's stretch marks all over her belly when she was in like her third pregnancy. So like that was really cool. So kind of the artistic side blending in with it too. So it's
What
been
are
a
you
really
hoping to
nice
do with
outlet.
those?
They just kind of live on my
I mean,
Instagram.
you're throwing them up to Shutterstock? I mean, who takes those things?
I looked at Shutterstock. No, I don't know. They're kind of just for me, I think, because sometimes they see family photos and I'm like, oh, the sunset is here. And yes, your teenagers didn't want to be here. Okay, great. And like,
So
it's,
when
you know,
so in your parties, you're like, hey, you want to see someone's stretch marks?
yeah,
Everyone
but it's
else,
like, but like a mother looking at those photos is like, man,
yeah.
I have those too. Like, or people with like wrinkles, like anyone over 50 is like I want them to see the photo and be like, that is raw. Like it's meant to be, nothing's blushed out, nothing's photoshopped,
Yeah.
nothing is meant to look flawless like the media would have us believe every photo has ever been. It's just
Yeah.
meant to be really, really raw.
Everything lately has been touched up or some way, marked up, and
Well,
nothing's real. It's amazing. So that's impressive.
our produce isn't even real.
Yeah. Good point. Are you
What's
gonna
like,
like put them in an album someday and like hope to publish it as something? I mean,
I
black
don't
and white is
know.
fascinating to me anyway, but
I don't know. There's there's a couple of different avenues in the world of like you can kind of submit your photography to like platforms that other people will sort of look at it, like other photographers will comment on it. Like I'm trying to remember the name of one of them that I'm on. I can't remember what it's called, but it's almost like a social media for photographers where everyone just kind of shares their photos and people comment on it and they ask about your work and what camera you're using and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. It's like a
Geek
community.
site. It's for geeks.
Yeah, totally. So that I share a lot of stuff there. Sometimes those websites too will have like little contests as well. It would be like this magazine wants a random photo, so submit your photo and you receive payment for this. So like kind of throw some stuff in there, but there's like millions of photographers, like people that live in more interesting cities than me submitting pictures. So yeah.
Interesting.
But so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm itching to get back on the stage. I really, really am. But it's just a schedule that I'm not used to anymore. You know, for someone to come to me now and they'd be like, we need you at the theater from 6 to 9, which really means 5 to 10 for the next 2 months, 3 to 4 nights a week. I'm like, man, I can't do that.
That crazy, huh?
Not right now. I just can't.
Yeah. It's okay. You're building a better life there. That's
oh yeah. And I'm like months away from getting back into that, not years.
Yeah. But, are there things on your docket are there things like down the road that you are preparing for that people have already tapped you for? No.
Well, Greg Parker just sent me the script for Alice Through the Looking Glass, which would start April of 2024. That would be an audition. He didn't offer me a role, so I would audition for that. But that I would love to do. My sister-in-law she owns a ballet company called Safe Haven Ballet, and she's been...
Oh, yeah, I go to ballet there.
Oh, yeah, of course I've seen you. She does very big productions all the time, and she loves to have actors and narrators. And I've done some pantomime directing for her as well. That's been really fun. And she's extremely flexible too, because she's my sister-in-law and she knows where I am during the day. So she understands. But yeah, like Jack Neary. Do you know Jack Neary?
You know what? I know the name well. I hear it all the time, but I don't think I know him personally.
He's a playwright. He's also a director down here on the Seacoast, and he had asked me to come audition for a role in a play that just finished actually. And at the time I told him I just wasn't really sure about the schedule. And he was like, well, here's the thing. Everyone's on stage pretty much the whole time, so nobody can miss a rehearsal. And I was like, see, that's a world I just can't sign up for right now.
Days gone by.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably looking at like fall. If I was going to do anything, it would have to maybe start like late in the fall. Like maybe I think about, maybe I'll do Christmas Carol. I never do Christmas Carol. Maybe I will.
You're the only one who's never done Christmas Carol.
I know. I don't care for the show. If the world of theater can just shun me right now, everyone who listens to this, like, that girl.
I heard this huge, what did you say? I could hear it in the background.
I think it's just that and you know, it's so providential for theaters every winter because everybody wants to see it. But I think I've always been really in love with the Nutcracker. I felt like it's just a more, like Christmas Carol is so heartfelt and I love the change and the transformation of the character. It's awesome. Nutcracker is like magic. And that's what I want to see at Christmas time is magic. So I've always chased a Nutcracker show. And now that my sister-in-law does the Nutcracker every year, I'm just in it instead of seeing it, which is very fun. It's very fun. I mean, I don't dance, but I'm not on point. I don't do ballet.
Two of us here. I don't do ballet either. So
it looks painful. It looks really painful.
Hell yeah. Dang.
Like on your toe.
I do not look good in a tutu, so it doesn't
They're
wash.
tight, man. They're tight. I've helped dancers backstage with quick changes, and like a quick change in the theater is like, hopefully your wig is on straight, right? Like you just throw it on, and costumers are like, you make that zipper as easy as possible, no buttons. No. In the world of ballet, there are these tiny little hook and eyes, and there's like 87 of them up their spine. And of course, it's like the tightest thing imaginable. So you're in the dark backstage. You have like 12 seconds and you're like trying to put them together.
Oh my God. I had no idea.
No, and I've said to all the dancers, I'm like, why would they do this to you?
Have
What's
they never
wrong
heard
with
of
the
Velcro?
zipper?
Did they invent the
Right?
Velcro?
And then sometimes something will break and people will be like, use a safety pin. And you're like, you can't because if the men are lifting the girls at all and the pin slips, it's too dangerous. The world of ballet, my gosh, it is. It's totally different. Totally different world than theater. Like
Amazing what's out there.
it's so weird. It's almost like I've been in that world more than the theater world the past few years.
Ooh.
And it's so different. Like I think the first time I said break a leg, they were like, no, the term is married. And I was like, why is the term, have you ever heard that term, married?
No.
It's literally French for shit. And it's
Okay.
because it means,
I am so glad I got out of bed today.
I know, right?
I learned.
I guess it means in like London or wherever when ballet was, the thing to go to. Married was a wish that you would grant to other dancers, hoping that a lot of carriages would be out front and a lot of horse-drawn carriages would come. So if there were a lot of horse-drawn carriages, there was a lot of poop on the ground, which meant a lot of people were coming to see the show. So the wish is that, like, we hope there's lots of poop on the ground out there, meaning there's a huge audience for you, which is so funny because break a leg is totally different.
Yeah, you think? Okay, that's...
It's very funny. So the first time, so now people are like, married. I'm like, this is hilarious. You're all just, everybody find some poop and it's going to be a great show. It's so funny. The world is so different.
Karielle, this discussion is so far off the tracks. So
I know.
far.
Hey, you asked me where I'm at.
I did. Yes, I did. I stepped in it, didn't I? Just
anyway, so we did a project.
Well, thank you for that introduction to your life.
You're so welcome.
Everyone I feel so good overjoyed that I've caught up now.
Aren't you glad you asked?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah. Karielle, you wrote a very interesting play. And so let's talk. First of all, why did you volunteer to write?
Whoa. Aaron's persistent, for one.
You're going to blame him for this. Is that
no,
where we're going?
No. I love that man. I love him so much. I love his heart. I love his face. He's just great. No, Aaron asked me a really long time ago, like over a year ago. And his original ask was if I would be interested in acting.
Of course.
And then I had a baby. So he asked me about writing. I was like, and I wrote a Facebook post about this the Saturday morning that it was going to perform in my nostalgia. I was writing that a college professor when I don't remember how long, I think I was a sophomore in college, maybe a junior. She had approached me and we had been exchanging emails about something and it was of enough relevance that I was like trying to be very professional in the emails. So I was writing professionally to her and she stopped me in the hallway a couple days later and she asked if I'd ever considered writing. And I said, no, I've never considered it. And it's just because I was so scared, like, well, sophomore in college. I'm like, I have no idea what I would write about. Nobody would read that. What would I have no life experience. No one cares what a 21-year-old thinks about anything, which isn't true. But, so I just never did. And then my senior year, we did this comedy sketch thing in college but I don't even know how much writing I did. I think I did more directing for that than anything else and some acting. So I just had never really done it. And selfishly, I just wanted to do some theater so badly. And I was like, even if it sucks, this would be like something fun to do in the theater world. That would be great. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll write. And I was like, okay, I'm probably going to have from the time the baby goes to bed until I need to go to bed to actually write. So I wrote my play in like 5 hours because I didn't have 24.
Are you serious? 5 hours?
Yeah. my husband was actually away on a trip and he flew in that afternoon. I picked him up at the bus station, drove home, handed him the baby. And I was like, you have to put the baby down and I have to start writing. And that was at like 6 o'clock. And I finished, you know what? I finished at like 9:30. It was like 4.5 hours.
Holy Tito. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. You said that you would be happy to write a play about a subject you actually did not know what would it be about at the time, for actors you did not know would be playing in it. And so how did you find out what your prop was and the line, and when did you find out who was going to be in it, who your cast was?
So at the orientation that we had Saturday morning at the Hat Box when everyone was all together, we like drew a card, and I don't remember exactly what the system was in Aaron's head, but we drew a card and that assigned us how many actors we would have. So I was assigned a 3-actor play. And then they told us what the line would be, which for this was you have to start somewhere. And there could be anything before that, after that, but those words have to be in that order somewhere in the script, which I thought was so cool because that's very, very neutral. Anyone could use it anywhere. And then we were assigned actors. He ran around with, you remember, he ran around with like the hand of cards and he told us to pick one, and it corresponded with the card that we picked in some way. Like it was like a black card or the same suit or whatever. Yeah. And then those actors were assigned to us. So I got Deborah Lund, oh my gosh, Amy Agostino and Ryan Clark. I just forgot Amy's last name for a second there. So I got those 3, which was not at all the kind of cast I was prepared for, because Deborah, I didn't know at all, but Ryan and Amy, both of them are like very high volume, very high expression, comedic actors. And Amy, I think is pretty much anything, but Ryan, I would consider comedic. And then Deborah had described herself as, like had gone to like a version of clown school and stuff. I'm like, great. So we're writing a comedy. Love it. I didn't know I was going to do that. I was prepared to write something of like sentiment. And then they revealed the prop table. Yeah. He just like lifted the blanket and there was, I don't know, 20 items and we could choose. So in my inability to do that for myself, I held my 8-month-old son over the table and just let him grab whatever he wanted. And I was like, that's what we'll work with. I'll just let him pick.
He's like a human divining rod.
Oh, yeah. It was great. I'm like, I can't possibly choose. Honestly, I was looking at the stack of books for a long time. I'm like, there's so many things you could do with books. Like they could kind of just be there or be super relevant. And it's, who knows? And then he, of course, grabs this bag of tennis balls, which is on top of 2 tennis rackets. And they were like, you don't have to use all the props, but at least something involved. So have to use the tennis rackets or whatever. So he grabs those and I was like, okay, I don't know anything about sports, so this isn't going to be athletic. That's for sure. And then found out Deb could juggle, which I didn't end up using at all. But whatever. So that's how it all came to be.
That's not how it all came to be, because there's a story here that you are yet to write that I never thought was good.
Me neither.
I'm like, are you seriously? Karielle? Not Karielle. She would never write this. This cannot be. What dark side has this come from? So somewhere along the line, your vision, your author's vision shifts gear here. Yes. How in the world did that happen?
So I was looking at relationships for the actors first, and I was like, okay, let's see. I'm like, I think Ryan and Amy could very clearly play spouses. Very clearly. I was like, okay, I can roll with spouses. Spouses is a nice and strong relationship, and it can play in a variety of ways. I was like, they're so loud and they're so expressive as actors. I'm like, so what can they do? I was like, they can fight about something. I'm like, okay, so if they were fighting and then Deb's just there, is she a counselor? And I'm like, well, then I have to write conflict and resolve, and like a marital conflict. I'm like, that could get heavy really quickly, or like a little bit too dark of a comedy. I'm like, I don't really want to go that route. I was like, plus where the tennis balls fit in. So I had all these ideas, and I kept getting stuck on the tennis balls. I was like, I don't know how to use them. I don't really want to use the rackets for anything because it just suggests sports, and I don't know. I'm like, so what can I do? I was like, what's a tennis ball used for if not tennis? Yeah. I was like, who else uses a tennis ball? I was like, dogs love tennis balls. I'm like, what can we do with a dog? Okay. So then I just started thinking about it. And I honestly, I can't tell you when the inspiration actually struck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
Is this before you were doing drugs, or is this like?
Let me see. The LCD kicked in at about. Honestly, I was driving home.
Tennis balls.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm like, let's see. I was just at home, just fiddling with them. Like, what could I use these for?
You're killing me.
I thought about dogs, and I was like, if I'm not going to have a dog, where would there be a dog eventually? I'm like, can't do it in a park. Park is cemetery. And I kept thinking about them like ending up in the wrong place at the wrong time, like some kind of comedies of errors. That's what it had to be in my head. So I landed on dog training, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny? Yeah. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they ended up at a dog training, but they didn't mean to be there? And I was like, well, how would that work? And then it settled into like, what if only one of them didn't know that that's why they were there? And I'm like, well, if they're at this dog training and one of them knows what it is, what does the other one think it is? And then I guess I really missed my husband.
Dark Side Karielle comes out.
I mean, my husband had been out of town for like 4 days. It's possible I was just feeling it. And I was like, you know what? We're going to get like the tiniest bit dirty. And that's okay, because I'm married. It's fine. I'm inspiring others.
You're killing me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that took such a dark turn, but it was so magnificent. It was so funny, so original. It was almost like a honeymooner skit, the old honeymooners with Jackie Gleason.
Oh my gosh.
It just came out of nowhere. And it was so lovable. And they did so well with it.
Yes.
That's the great thing. You really did. You had wonderful people to work with to pull that whole thing off.
Oh my, I mean, down to Kelsey directing it. I was like, oh, she gets me. Kelsey's one of my closest friends. I was like, she knows my voice. If I wrote something weird and no one knew what it meant, she'd be like, I know what she meant.
Wait, you just said if I wrote something weird, she would get it. No, and Kelsey. I mean, Karielle, you did.
I know. Down to the studded collar on the coat rack. She understands. She knew what I was going for.
Oh, that was so great. Oh my God. I just could not believe it was you. I'm like, no, this cute little Christian girl.
Nobody thought I had a sexy bone in my body.
Oh my God.
And here I am.
Oh my God, girl. Oh.
I just wanted people to laugh, and I wanted it to be wholesome without being like cheesy.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing crossed a line. I didn't get weird.
No,
it was just enough for people to be like, this is funny. Like,
It was. Congratulations, but everything was they pulled it off. You pulled it off.
Oh, they did such a good job.
You get your script. You're done with it. Now you have to hand this off.
Yeah.
And was yours one of the ones that people had to choose from, or you just gave it to Kelsey? Is it you just?
No, Brian and Kelsey had to deliberate to decide who would take whose script, and I think ultimately, I mean, Kelsey being so close to me leaned towards mine, I think originally anyway. But I think at the end of the deliberation, it came down to content matter.
Yeah.
And Kelsey just not really wanting to try to dig into Peter's script too much for one reason or another. It's just a little bit of a heavier topic.
Yeah.
And I think she just wanted to have the comedy, which is fine. And she felt that Brian, being a strong director the way that he is, would enjoy Peter's script and digging into it that way. So she kind of had that as her argument too, that she was like, I think she was pretty straight. She's like, I would enjoy directing this one. I would not enjoy directing this one. And that's just how it is. And Brian was like, okay. So it's very easy.
Was she in contact with you during the rehearsal process?
Yes. Yes. Down to she texted me and sent me a picture of a wall of dog toys. And she said, so which one of these do you think looks most like a sex toy? And I was like, this has never been the conversation I thought we would ever have in my life.
Oh, you think so, huh?
So I'm like circling them on the screen so she can see.
This is like some subreddit in the dark web that
I know. And you have to know, Kelsey's the woman who led me to the church.
Yeah.
Like, she's the one who invited me to church. And now she and I are like, so which one of these is a sex toy?
Oh my God.
And we were like, is it weird that we don't know? Shouldn't we know? But we don't. As married women, shouldn't we know? But we don't. And I was like, this one's ribbed. This looks uncomfortable. Or like, we don't know what to say.
Oh my God.
So it was so funny. And then the back and forth, but no, she and I were in communication, and she would kind of ask me what I thought of like her approaching something maybe differently than I thought. Like, she would call me and be like, what do you think about XYZ? Like, does that take too much away from what you were intending? I was like, no, it didn't, first of all. And I also kind of thought that, like, I don't know that it's even my place, because I almost want to see what you'll just do with it. You know, like, Ryan's approach to the character was actually very different than I had like voiced him in my head.
Oh, interesting. Because it just seemed so natural. It seemed like it was perfect. Like, watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, you know.
Oh yeah, he
was the Jackie Gleason all the way. I mean,
I thought he was great. It was such a nice approach, because he's meant to sort of. Well, okay, let me say, he approached it with like a nervousness. Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't quite sure what to expect. And his character assumes that he's going into something totally different. And I had written it sort of as like a bravado. Like, he's like, oh, I got this. This is such a good idea, babe. I'm here for it. But instead he was just like, okay, let's see about this, which I thought was so much nicer, because it let him panic a little bit sooner when he was like, why does she have a leash?
Yeah.
I was so confused.
Yeah. He had an innocence to his character that like was betraying him all the time. You know, as she was pulling him deeper and deeper in, and he's getting more and more confused about what the hell is going on here.
I know. Oh my gosh.
He did such a great job. Amy did too, but he did and the accent that Deborah had.
Did she tell you where it came from?
No, I had no idea, but it just came out of nowhere, but it worked.
She told me a little bit. I guess I won't say, in case any of these relationships come up and her friends are listening to the podcast. Okay. But she did pull it from someone, and an anonymous sort of figure in her life, and she's describing this woman to me, and I was like, that is hammer on the head. Like, that is perfect. And it was funny, because it sort of sparked the conversation about, like, isn't it weird how you meet really annoying people in your life and you're like, I'm going to make a character after you someday. Because, like, careful, you're going to end up in a novel.
I got this friend who's going to write a play that she doesn't know about, and it's going to get dark and weird, and I'm putting you in it. So.
People don't know.
Did you get to see any of the rehearsals, or the production did you see even the tech?
No, I didn't see anything. I didn't see the set, the costumes, the props. I didn't see any rehearsal. I wasn't cued in on anything. The only thing that I knew about was, or really that I got any communication about in detail, was the very first rehearsal, where Kelsey told me that she pulled everybody in and she said, we only have so much time. I don't want to have everybody spend all this time trying to make really strong character choices and then like flip-flopping them for 3 days. Because in any other play, you'd spend weeks on character choices, and then you'd finally land on one. And instead, she put the actors up there after just reading it through at least once. And she said, I told them all to make the totally wrong choice. do something totally wrong, like something this character would never do, just be totally absurd. And she had them do it a few times, and by the end, they had all made character choices, really
Wow.
strong ones. And I told her, I think I learned this in a masterclass years ago. It's like, I think the term for that is actually Italiano, where you try the scene 100 times bigger than it ever needs to be. Like, instead of being like surprised that someone walked in a room, you would like flip a table and destroy the set because you're like, I didn't know someone was going to walk in the room. And it makes the director kind of, or it gives the director an opportunity to like pull you back
Yeah.
a little bit.
Interesting.
And she was like, I didn't know there was a term for it. And I'm like, that's the only term I've ever heard. And I always kind of wish we'll do it for every show process because it's so fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Even in a dramatic, and it just kind of, it lets you loosen up as an actor, especially with a new cast. You're just like, just do something crazy that you would never do. And don't feel embarrassed about it. And don't be worried about it. Everybody be safe. But just go crazy. And then you kind of surprise yourself as a performer. And your director can like dig into what you're actually capable of doing.
Yes. Rather than have to dig it out of you.
Yeah.
They can now go with you on that ride and reeling it back. I'd rather always give too much than not enough.
Which is a total gift to every director ever.
I think
like
so too.
No director wants to be like, do it again, please give me more. Like
Yeah.
Nobody cast you because they're trying to train you.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Did you have any reservations at all about the play? I mean, did you like, so you write it and it's cute, it's funny and, somewhat risque. Like 3 or 4 days in, are you like, maybe I shouldn't have done that? Or
No, I don't think. I think I knew that I would have some kind of don't even. I knew that I would have some kind of interaction like this later where people would be like, Karielle, are you going to do this play on Saturday night and then like lead worship Sunday morning? What are you doing? I'm like, first of all, God invented sex, okay? So this is not a problem. All right.
Yes,
It's
I am.
literally in scripture that you should be having sex with your spouse. Okay. So don't come at me. So first of all, there's nothing
Not much
wrong with
about
that.
dog toys in there, I don't think, though.
There's nothing against them either. Somebody get a Bible. We don't know what to do. Ray, I think we're
one
going
of the
to hell.
lost epistles. Jeez.
Oh my gosh. So no, I think I prepared myself for these kinds of conversations where people would be like, where did this come from? And I'd be like, come on, you were thinking it. It's funny. It's just meant to be funny. I didn't smear blood across the stage. Like, come on. I didn't make anything. I didn't write anything offensive. It was just funny. I didn't want to dig into like anything so obscure that somebody wouldn't get it. That was something really important to me too, that Kelsey and I talked about early, was like, I really want the audience to get it. Like, I want the jokes to make sense. We actually added, I think, 3 or 4 lines in the very beginning just to clarify, to make sure that it made sense. So like the part where Ryan takes a call on the phone and steps out for a second, that was actually added later.
Got ya.
Because as they went through it, they're like, the audience might not get it right away. And then the second they had that conversation, 45 seconds into the play, we were like, oh, they get it.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking around the audience like everybody's light bulb went off and they were like, oh my gosh, this is such a misunderstanding. And then everyone could just kind of go along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they all know the secret and he doesn't. Yeah. And that's the great part of the ride.
Yeah. So funny.
So it was a wonderful way to end the evening, the afternoon, the 4 plays, because it, as Aaron had told me, it sandwiched this nighttime afternoon. The audience started the afternoon laughing. They end the night laughing. And you must have felt proud to hear them laughing, because that meant, I mean, you get some recognition that, it's okay. And they did love it. I mean, God, we're all laughing. I watched it on the monitor and was just dying laughing.
Yeah. Like every joke landed, every single one, which is so great. So great. I was so proud of my actors too. for doing that. But they, I'll tell you a secret,
Yeah,
publicly
no one will
here,
hear
I
it. Just me
guess.
and you.
No
So
one,
go
it's
ahead.
just you and me. No one's listening. I have this tiny secret dream of doing stand-up comedy, and I've written all these random bits and like tiny little one person's comedy, like comedy sketches forever. And my husband is always like, you got to do it. You got to just do it. And I'm like, but I have all these random jokes and I don't know how to string them together into a comedy act. He's like, comedians just jump topics. It's not a big deal. You just do it all the time. But I've never been able to do it. I've never taken the time. And the fear, and I've said this to my husband too. I'm like, the thing about when you do a comedic play, if the audience doesn't laugh, you as an actor can just be like, they don't get it. Who cares? I didn't write it.
Right.
And you can just move on. You just kind of brush it off. You're like, you don't have to be like, I'm not funny. People didn't laugh at me. Like, no, they didn't get the joke. And even if it's not true and you are not funny, you can still brush it off as an actor. But like a comedian, if you get up there and they're not laughing,
Yeah.
you're not funny.
Yeah.
The nice thing about, and I've said this before too, about like putting on a comedy act like at a comedy club or something like that, is people came here to laugh. So they probably will find the humor. So I probably should just try it someday. But this show and some of the jokes in it were like a little bit of me like just kind of dipping my toes into the comedy world. I'm like, am I funny? And all these jokes were landing. I was like, oh my gosh, I am funny. This is funny. Okay, so maybe I can write some other stuff that's funny. Like the joke about the corgi being a loaf of bread with legs.
Yeah.
And like, if you can outrun it, it's not a dog, it's a cat that needs walking. Those are my jokes. I'm just like, you're laughing now, which is great.
Well, I'm remembering hearing them. I mean, it's just, they were great. They were. The corgi one just grabbed me. It was
I'm
perfect.
so glad.
I had the image in my head. It was just perfect.
I'm so glad. Because there's been so many times that I've written these jokes and my husband will crack up or laugh. And I'm like, some of my comedy is like out of context. I don't know. Like maybe I'm only funny in the moment. Maybe I'm not funny. I don't know. So it kind of, it gave me this big gulp of confidence that I'm funnier than I think I am. Yeah. So that was really cool. And just that I'm able to write. I like working with Greg Gaskell. He would write these phenomenal characters, these beautifully orchestrated characters. They're just gorgeous. Like, and they're so dynamic and I love them. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you write that kind of personality? He works with some of the best actors too, like Chris Savage and like Greg Parker and like all these, Wayne and all these amazing people. Yeah. That like, even with great actors, you're still writing these incredible characters. How do you do that? And I never understood. I'm like, because when I create a character, I go through like all these questions and like, what is this character's favorite color? What is this dynamic? Like all these things. Like, how do you do that for a bunch of different people? Yeah. And he never really had an answer for me. It was hard to explain. And doing it myself, I'm like, they kind of just come together, don't they? Mm. They sort of.
Interesting you say that. Well, two things. Let me interject two things here. One is kudos to you for writing a comedy that worked on the first time out. You didn't have to have like 9 redrafts. You didn't have to send it off to a team of people to edit it and say, no, there's no continuity. It worked on your first time out of the gate.
Kudos. Thank you.
The other thing is, have you ever been to a comedy club?
Actually, no. Okay. I've seen like comedians that I love and are already famous, but never to a club.
So I've been to one. Two. One that I'm going to admit to. So we down on Com Ave in Boston, my brother and I went to I was like you. I was thinking in my brain about things. And so we went to this open mic night and I didn't sign up. And we just went in to listen to see what was going on, what the talent pool was and that kind of thing. But I didn't know my brother, when he went to the bathroom, signed me up. So I get called to go up. And I would write, there's not a more frightening moment than to be called up in a bar full of people to do stand-up comedy. And you're really, really not ready. So I'm not going to get into all of that, but I was up there. I'm trying to do some stand-up comedy. The margarita blender's going in the background. People are all sitting around. Nobody's paying any attention. They're smoking, laughing. They didn't even know I was there.
Yeah.
But I'm done. Woman comes up behind me on stage. She's a comedian. She's up next. She actually had with her a yellow stenographer's pad and was pulled up a chair and was literally going through jokes that she was trying out. And she would just start saying her jokes to the audience. If they laughed, she made a note. If they didn't laugh, she made a note. She was going through this list of material that she had and trying to develop a routine, an act. So there you go. Go out and do it. So that's my story.
Aaron and I have had this conversation, Aaron himself, because he and I both share this dream that we should do comedy someday. And he was like, you know what we have to do? He goes, just you and I. This is before he was married. So Mary and Zach would probably come now. Yeah. He was like, okay, just you and I. He's like, we're going to go to some faraway city for just like one night. And we're not going to tell anybody. And we're just going to do comedy where no one knows us. And we will only be there for each other. And then if no one laughs, it's not a big deal. We'll come home and never talk about it again.
Dude, bring nitroglycerin pills because your heart is going to pound out of your chest.
I'm so nervous to do it.
Theater has nothing on this stuff. I'm telling you.
It's so hard.
And a lot of it is, it's you putting yourself out there. That's what you said earlier. You're either funny or you're not, right?
Yeah.
People are going to tell you immediately if you're funny or not.
And it's not even like a blanket you are or are not. To some people, you're going to be hilarious. To other people, they're going to throw a tomato at you. Yeah. Like, get off the stage. You're not funny.
I'd rather go on later when all the drunks are drunk and be funny to them. I
don't know.
And to get all the sober ones and try to make them laugh, you know?
I don't know. It's like, context is everything. So like some of your jokes won't even make sense. Like one of the best jokes I think I've ever written, I can't even do anymore because I'm not young enough to do it. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Dang.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, stick with your corgi stuff because it works.
Corgi. That joke was funny too. But it was about like, it had something to do with frat boys and like being young and single. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like married with a baby. I can't do that joke.
You're going to need to flesh it out. You're going to have to just sit there and figure out how to do it. If it's a good joke,
I'm going to put it in a play.
Okay. Yeah. If someone would ever ask me to write a play, let's see. Oh yeah. It's next year's 7 day. So the audience loved your stuff. They really did love it. And when you now have chance to reflect, you liked it, you didn't like it, the things you thought worked, didn't work, fell flat, or everything pretty much you liked
about the project, or
the play?
My play? Yeah, I mean, I really did love it. I loved what they did. I was humbled a little bit as a writer. I had like my playwright hat on, sitting in the audience. And I was like, if I had my director and my actor hat on, I think I would find myself a little bit like pulled back about how like I cannot control the pacing of this at all. Like as a director, I think I would have been like, take a beat, let the audience catch up. There was like one moment in the show, and it's Ryan's realization when he's holding the tennis ball and he's like, hang on, this is a tennis ball. She has a leash, where he's like realizing that it's a dog training. I imagine, like when I wrote that, I imagined it so much slower, like moments of like real silence for the audience to just be like, like for them to kind of catch up and him to be like as a director, I would have told him to really slow down and let the audience chew on that for a while. As an actor, I would have soaked that moment forever. I would have let the audience search my face. I would have circled the room. I would have made it last a good 40 seconds, right? Like
I'm with you. That's a downfall.
Real, and I feel like it happened really fast. He was just like, wait, this is a tennis ball. And I was like, that happened so quickly that I was like, oh man, I wonder. But everyone was laughing really hard. I'm like, they still get it.
Yeah.
And it's still read. So I think it was just kind of humbling as a writer that I'm like, you know what? I can't write with pace in mind. I can't. Because actors and directors are going to totally take it a different way.
Yeah.
even like with voice in mind, or even with
Hmm.
intent. Like there's even some intent that may not totally come across. So it's a little bit freeing to just be like, here's the words. You probably know what I mean, but let's see what you think.
Hmm.
As creatives, as professionals, let's see what you think. So it's very humbling, actually, to have your first work be like this, where you're just like, man, I have just no say in anything at all.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, it must be, was there a point where you really maybe didn't want to watch it just to like let it go and it's out there and you could move on and not have seen it?
No.
Because I can't imagine writers who write plays, obviously you can't go see every iteration of what people
Yeah.
do, right? And
No.
there could be a dozen different Ryans playing it a dozen different ways.
And I would want to see every single one. Oh, I totally would. I'll tell you, I almost didn't have childcare on Saturday. I was like, I'm not going to be the person that brings a baby to a play. I will not. Because don't do that. You hear me, audience? Don't do that. It's not, it's selfish. I know you want to see the show, but it's distracting. It's not good. Actors worked really hard. Don't bring a baby or a dog ever. But, well, unless that's a service dog, of course. But
Or a
like,
corgi. Could be a
or a
corgi.
corgi, they're real cute. Just butter them up. So I was like, I can't bring him with me. So I'm going through all these avenues. I'm like, who could babysit? My husband had his other son, and they already had a thing they had to be at. And I was like, if I can't go, I'm actually going to be really mad. I'm like, because I wrote it and they worked so hard on it. I'm like, this feels like a career milestone. And I'm actually going to be really angry if I can't go.
Yeah.
And like, my parents already had tickets, so I can't ask them to babysit. And I was like, what am I going to say? Like, forfeit your tickets to see my show so you can watch my kids so I can go? Like, that's not fair. Or like, okay, guys, you go tell me how it was. Like, no,
Yeah.
I would be devastated. And even now, I'm like, if anyone else had this script, I'd be like, when is it? I have to see. Maybe
Did they
that's
film it?
vanity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
No,
it has to be a
they
bit,
didn't.
right?
And we were actually told it was going to be filmed.
Yeah.
And I followed up a couple days later. I was like, so how can we get the recording? And they said we actually had a problem with the memory cards, so we weren't able to film. And I was like,
If only they had invented iPhones by then. Huh.
yeah, and I said it too. I was like, man, I really wish something was said because I would have recorded that. I would have deleted every picture in my phone to record that.
You just gotta get your camera out and just put it on a stand in the booth.
Well, and in hindsight, my camera, my professional camera takes video. I was like, I could have set up my own tripod
Yeah.
and done this myself.
Oh my God. I can't
But
believe
I didn't even think of it. I was trying to find a babysitter.
apparently no one did.
No. So it wasn't recorded. And I think it was Aaron. He was like, on the bright side, we don't have any rights to your show, so you can do it somewhere else. I was like, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't have a production company either. So
Andrew should somehow work a thing in there where they can film it, especially new works, because you've got Donald Tongue doing all this new stuff that they've got, and there's
I
like
feel like
George Kelly and his group writing plays. Surely everybody wants to see their stuff, right? And they can
doesn't,
review it. What?
yeah, doesn't Donald Tongue record his stuff though?
I don't know. I don't know. I just obviously he's not using, I don't think, Andrew's equipment, right? I don't know if they have a way to do it. Do they?
I don't know. Donald Tongue is a busy, busy man. He's always got so much going on. I don't know what he's doing in the background. He's probably recording everything. He's like, I have record of everything.
You would think, right? I mean, I'm surprised that wasn't a priority. We need to talk to Aaron about that for next year, because
Yeah,
I mean, I would think you'd like a record of it, good or bad. Just
I really did. And like my husband didn't even see it. He couldn't see it because of the childcare. My in-laws couldn't see it. I had a lot of friends that couldn't see it, and they were like, well, we'd love to have like a viewing party. Let's watch the recording. And then it wasn't recorded. I was like, bummer.
FaceTime. You can have live FaceTime. You could Zoom it. You could do
I should have gone Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So many options, man.
Skype. Any of them? Just
Yeah, I think maybe in the future there could be discussion about like, if you want this documented, make arrangements.
Yeah.
Because otherwise everyone's kind of relying on it's too much pressure for the Hatbox too. Like they're doing so much stuff already.
Yeah.
Why should they be responsible to record your play?
Well,
Like,
yeah, I get it. But we could have a separate team that streams it. I mean, if people want
Yeah.
it, again, Facebook Live. Come on.
Yeah, I wish I'd done it. I really wish I had. It's disappointing. And now people are like, "Can I read the script?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not the same."
No, hell no. Hell no, it's not the same. You had to
But
see it.
it's all right.
Yeah.
It's the first year. It's something that's going to be annual. There's stuff that'll change all the time.
Mm.
All the time. Like somebody had the idea of using the same props every year, like the
Oh,
same couple of props, and then people have to find a new way to use it, which would be fun.
and challenging.
Very
Yeah.
challenging.
Wow. That would be interesting. Are you going to continue to write now? Are you spurred on to?
Yeah, I think I am. I have this new note in my phone that has just ideas that I've kind of rattled off in the last few days, I guess. It's only been days. So
Mhm.
just the last few days just had like three or four ideas kind of pop in. I'm like, what would I write about? Because Michael Curtis asked me at the end, everyone had sort of left and we're just lingering, we're chatting, and he was like, if you were gonna write something else right now, what would you write about? I was like,
Ooh,
I
what a
don't
great
know.
question.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
and I said I've always wanted to be in a two-hander, and I was actually sort of hoping for a two-hander for this project because I just want to write one.
Hmm.
And he was like, "What would it be about?" And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'd have to write about what I know. I guess I'd probably try for sentiment, like
Hmm.
the original thing. It's like it would be interesting to write about like a woman such as myself who has gone through like the transitions of life, like going from kind of being raised up to like finding your career point and then choosing to be single for a while, then getting married and then becoming a parent. But then like I don't know anything beyond that. So then I would just be writing sort of freely from there. I'm like, but is that sort of like been there, done that? You
Yeah, I
know?
don't know. Well, it can never be been there, done that in your instance because your life is different than everyone else's. Your track
It's
is
true.
different. So
It's true.
it would always be colored by your own personal experiences, which may or
Yeah.
may not. I mean, I obviously your life is different than somebody else's because I don't know many people who would have written a play that echoed dog training in that vein.
Those are some boring people, Ray. You got to learn, meet some more people. Yeah, I think I will definitely write, especially in the next few months as I'm kind of not performing very much at all. I'm obviously not directing. I think it could be a great outlet for right now, even just to draft ideas and
Yes.
then sort of go from there and maybe see if there's something that could be pitched for an upcoming season. I would be very nervous to pitch it somewhere where I'm not as known,
Hmm.
like at the Ring. I don't
Yeah.
really know the Ring's producers as well as I know like the Hatbox. Like Hatbox, I mean, that orientation Saturday morning was the perfect example of like we all know each other
Right.
and we've worked together and we trust each other so much that like even if something totally obscure came out of the woodwork, we'd be like, it's okay because we know them. If you
Hmm.
didn't know me and you read that play, you'd be like, this girl's a nut and a phony.
No, I'd be
Like
like, I want to meet this girl.
maybe you would be, but maybe like Brian Halpern, if he read that, he'd be like, she's crazy. I can't. I don't even know this girl. People would be
Oh,
like, oh, she's a worship leader. Be like, no, she's not.
yeah. No, that one doesn't come out of that for some reason. I never got that feeling when I saw it. Oh, the author must be a worship leader. I'm thinking, yeah.
And I'm
No,
like, oh man.
one of these things is not like the other.
Ah, well.
Okay.
Mama
Anything else?
chameleon.
Did I cover?
Uh, did you enjoy the experience as an actor? Did you
I
love it?
did. I did. I told Dwight, I talked to him the other day, and I told it Aaron, but I started off just doing it because he asked. And as a
Mhm.
friend, I'm like, yeah, of course I would. Yes. And but there was something about going through the process, and I'm gonna say this is due to in our case, we had Peter's script,
Mhm.
which was an actor's dream. I mean, on one level, a nightmare because we're scared to death that it's so metaphorical and,
Yeah.
cerebral that we're not sure anybody's going to get all the different layers there. And so, because we got a chance to work together and collaborate on this piece, this beautiful piece, I fell in love with the week. I wasn't exhausted
Mm.
by the end. I was very happy and proud. Little concerned whether or not the audience would accept Peter's hat being born and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, but at the end, I was just glowing. I was so proud, so honored to have been asked and to be a part of it.
Mm.
Yeah, and
I love
again,
that.
Well, like you had said, we knew each other, right? And it was, how often do we get to do that voluntarily? Usually we just bump into each other. Somebody happens to cast you and I together or whatever the heck,
Right.
it's just, random. But here we volunteered to do it. And it was just so great to work with people you really like and you appreciate their level of integrity and the level of craftsmanship that they bring to their art on all of those levels, the writing, the acting, the directing. I could not fault, there was I thought, no weak link there happening on all four of them. It was all four plays, it was just, and then I just loved watching them.
Yeah.
They all came off so well.
I know.
I couldn't have been prouder if I was Aaron, it was wonderful in my opinion. I had a great time.
I was so proud of the actors. So proud of them. Like, that's hard.
Some of them, yes,
really
7 days, right? To try to learn a script, act it in a way that paying people are going to accept, right? I mean, we're asking a lot of a paying crowd in 7 days. So, and like I've said to some other people, there are so many chances for pitfalls and minefields along the way. Anything could have happened, like the instance with Mary Frazier's group and coming out of COVID, right? I mean, anything could have happened. Anything. Someone could have gotten a car accident or anything could have happened along the way. Or the play could have been terrible if somebody had written a bad one, right?
Yeah. It's weird. Like the risk is very high, but the stakes are sort of low at the same time. Like, I don't know that anyone was really expecting a perfect play coming in. My fear for the actors was dialogue. I'm like, man, if something huge happens, like you really forget something big. Yeah. It just throws the whole thing. Like Gary's play, you got to hand it to Ian.
I'm telling you.
And those monologues, my gosh, like the very intricate. We're not talking, they weren't like, Joe Schmoes talking about whatever. Like that was complicated. Writing it too, I'm like, there's research involved with that.
This is my point. Thank God everything was in the hands of the people who showed up because, if just random people, you wouldn't maybe know the talent involved. You might not know if anybody can even write. I mean, there was so many chances for things to go wrong. But Aaron, in his brilliance of going out and getting all of these people he knew and trusted, thank God it pulled it off. And I'll tell you what, you're right. Nobody was expecting, a perfect play, but
it was.
I'll be darned. You looked at all four of those plays. It'd be hard to find a real hard an error anywhere in there. Some weak point. I don't think it could be done. To be honest with you,
it was phenomenal. I can't wait to see it happen again, and I will absolutely be involved in some capacity next year because it was great.
Oh, you have more dog jokes ready to?
Oh yeah. We bought the toys. We got to use them again.
Excuse me. All right, I'm going to let you go. I've held on to you longer.
No, this is great. I'm so glad we got to talk about it.
Oh, me too. Well, congratulations on your son. Congratulations on your play. Congratulations on your marriage. And I hope you have a wonderful future. Thank you so much for this. I really do.
Oh my gosh.
And there you go. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.